What's going on, everyone? It's the Fantasy Football Almanac, back at it with another fantasy football video. Today I want to discuss Dynasty cornerstone rankings at the running back position. These are guys who are foundational pieces to your team that you will have for the next 3, the next 4, the next 5 years, hopefully, who are a positional advantage that will help you win your leagues. But before we get into it, if you guys could, go down and give this video a like. I'm answering every single comment, so you guys have any questions related to Dynasty, related to trades, anything fantasy football related, let me know down below. If you think I'm totally wrong on a player, please let me know down below as well, because fantasy football, it's an imperfect sport. Everyone gets it wrong sometimes. Please, please, please don't be afraid to let me know. And subscribe to the channel, turn that notification bell on so you don't miss another video. With that though, guys, let's hop right into it. So first I want to start off with the rookie, Bijan Robinson. And I think Bijan Robinson is as much of a can't-miss prospect as you can possibly have at the NFL level. He's one of the few blue-chip prospects in this draft, according to most NFL scouts. And so I think Bijan Robinson is nearly a no-brainer to have, at least in the first tier. If not 1, that's fine. But I could see him as low as 4. But personally, I'm going to have him 1 here because, again, he's a can't-miss prospect as far as I can tell. He's the only player in the PFF era to have over 100 missed tackles in a collegiate season with 104. This is somebody who has the elusiveness of Saquon Barkley, but can also truck somebody if need be. Whatever team he ends up on, it will be in the first round. I can guarantee that. A lot of people are saying, oh, it's a running back, he won't be in the first round. Bijan Robinson is breaking that trend 100%. And whatever team he goes to, he will be the workhorse running back. And there's a lot of teams he could end up on that will be great. My number 1 realistic hope is the Chargers, because I think if he does go to the Chargers, they will move on from Austin Eckler. They have a very high-powered offense, a good offensive line with Rashawn Slater. I think that would be my number 1 destination, because I actually do have the 101 in my main Dynasty league. I also have the 102, the 105, the 109. That's another story for another day, though. But either way, I think Bijan Robinson is the number 1 running back. He's pretty much landing spot proof, but worst possible landing spot, let's say he ends up, worst realistic landing spot, let's say he ends up somewhere like the Seahawks. I still think he'd be 4th in this tier, but would be pretty painful. The second guy, actually a Seahawk himself, is Kenneth Walker. And I did debate having Breece Hall here, and I still think it's absolutely fine if you do have Breece Hall here. The reason why I have Ken Walker slightly ahead of Breece Hall, despite the ceiling not being as high, is just because Breece Hall is coming off an ACL injury. And yes, Breece Hall is young enough. I think he will be absolutely fine. I'd just like to see it with my own eyes first before I put Breece Hall at 2, before I put Breece Hall potentially at 1. I think Breece Hall is a phenomenal talent. But either way, Ken Walker is in a great offense. I really like the Seahawks offense. I think their O-line took a dramatic step forward this year as they drafted Charles Cross. I think Geno Smith is a better quarterback than a lot of people are giving him credit for. He had a phenomenal year last season. Pete Carroll, also one of the most underrated head coaches in the league. They have the 6th pick. They have the 20th pick. They could easily bring in another offensive lineman if they want to. They could bring in another weapon if they want to. Spacing the floor out even further for Geno Smith, for Kenneth Walker. He did have over 1,000 rushing yards and 165 receiving yards in his first season. This is a breakaway run machine, much in the way that Saquon Barkley is. And I know I'm saying Saquon Barkley a lot, just because I love Saquon Barkley. I'm a Giants fan. I just found this at my grandma's house. Thought it looked cool. I mean, just looking at Kenneth Walker's big playability, it's absolutely off the charts. I mean, he's 3rd in 20-plus yard runs behind only Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb. Good company to be in if I don't say so myself. In 30-plus yard runs, he has 5. He is tied with Travis Etienne in first place. In 40-plus yard runs, he is tied for 3rd behind only Derrick Henry and Travis Etienne. And then in 50-plus yard runs, he is the only player with 3 50-plus yard runs. So this is somebody who's going to breakaway runs more often than most other players, which in fantasy is exactly what I like to see because it means big play weeks. That's what I like. You need some volatility in your lineups because if you're always dropping 12 points, if you're always dropping 13 points, whatever it is, yeah, it's going to be nice for fantasy football, but the players that win you weeks are the players that, like Tyreek Hill, that can drop 25 points, 30 points on a given week. And Ken Walker can do that clearly with his big playability. That's why I do have him at 2. But I understand having him as low as 4 yet again. Number 3 is Breece Hall. And Breece Hall had a phenomenal start to his rookie season. Ended early with the torn ACL. That's why I do have him at 3. But when Breece Hall started coming on this year, I thought he was going to break fantasy football leagues. That's how good he was. I mean, people were looking like a fool for drafting him at 30, and they ended up being right. But objectively, Breece Hall was the right pick. I think Breece Hall right now could be in redraft leagues a top 10, top 15 pick. But I do see Breece Hall as potentially one of the best running backs in the league when he is fully healthy. We do also maybe, I don't know what's going on with the situation. I wish I had insider info. I don't. On Aaron Rodgers, if Aaron Rodgers does come to this team, I mean, we've seen Aaron Jones have tons of success, A.J. Dillon have tons of success with Aaron Rodgers. I think Breece Hall would just be another great running back for Aaron Rodgers to have. And that's why I do have him at 3. I could see him as high as 1. I could see him as low as 4 yet again, as I've said with my tiers. But the last guy I do have in this tier is Jonathan Taylor, and it makes perfect sense. Jonathan Taylor, although he had a pretty poor season this last season, is one of the best running backs in the league, only 24 years old. In 2021, he had a nearly record-breaking season with 1,800 yards and 18 touchdowns, and another 360 yards in the receiving game to boot. A phenomenal season from Jonathan Taylor. Yes, he regresses in his age 23 season, but I still think Jonathan Taylor is a phenomenal running back and absolutely deserving of this number 4 spot. The next player that I want to talk about is Jahmyr Gibbs, and Jahmyr Gibbs currently is only 21 years old. His 21st birthday was on March 20th. He just recently had his first drink. Just kidding. But either way, Jahmyr Gibbs, very, very young running back on Keep Trade Cut right now. He is listed at the RB8. I personally have him at the RB5 here, so a little bit higher than consensus. But the reason why I do have him so much higher is twofold. The first reason being that Jahmyr Gibbs is a prolific pass catcher. I mean, he's coming from Alabama, having 444 receiving yards, which if that translates to the NFL, that is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he has such a fully fledged route tree, and I do generally love running backs who catch the ball because it just means a higher floor, especially in half PPR. PPR means they're more involved, and it means they're on the field significantly more than other running backs. So that's why I do like Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think any team that drafts him will utilize him as that receiving down back. As for landing spots, that is where I am a little bit concerned. That is where he could fall. That is where he could rise. But any team with a non-mobile quarterback or a quarterback who does check it down will be fine for Jahmyr Gibbs. I'd love him just about anywhere. Even if he does end up on a team, like let's say, for instance, the Eagles, I am absolutely fine with that. I do not mind at all. Even though he would not be getting crazy receiving down usage, I think his rushing upside would more than make up for it on a team like the Eagles. The next guy I have is Christian McCaffrey, and Christian McCaffrey, although he is a little bit older, will be 27 going into this NFL season, and probably only has 2 more years of relevant fantasy football left. I think he is definitely a cornerstone asset because his ceiling is simply the best running back in all of football, both in fantasy and just plain watching. I mean, he's absolutely insane week in and week out, averaging 20 total touches. This is somebody who, if he plays a full season, will have over 100 targets, which that's wide receiver numbers. I mean, just last year he had 108 targets, which placed him 32nd among all players in the NFL in terms of targets. Right below somebody like Mark Andrews, but right above Juju Smith-Schuster and Jerry Jeudy. And these are full-time wide receivers who both played a full season's worth of football. And in his 2019 stud season, the season where he was easily the best running back in football, where if you had him, you probably won your championship in 2019, he had 142 targets, which was 8th out of all running backs. I mean, I don't need to tell you how great Christian McCaffrey is. I just have to have him here out of respect. I know he probably only has, again, 2 years left of relevant football, but those 2 years left of football will be some of the most gracious 2 years we have seen from an NFL player. Speaking of beautiful football, next up, I got Saquon Barkley. And Saquon Barkley, while he has dealt with numerous injuries, he is a little bit younger than Christian McCaffrey, only 26 and will be 26 during the NFL season. This is a running back who probably has an extra year on Christian McCaffrey, and debatably you could have him above Christian McCaffrey. I just think Christian McCaffrey, being on the 49ers, one of the best rosters in all of football, if not the best roster, I give him the nod over Saquon Barkley despite being a Giants fan. But Saquon Barkley, a phenomenal season, finishing as the running back 5 last year, and this is somebody who has the talent to be the running back 1 on any given season. He's an absolutely phenomenal player, a phenomenal fantasy football player, really fun to watch. He has everything you could ask for, except the problem is he does have some occasional dud games. Not as much this year because he wasn't really going for the long runs as much, so he had more consistent fantasy outputs, but there are some games where he just gets shut down because the Giants' O-line is not all that great. I mean, we're improving, but nothing crazy. So that's why I do have Saquon just below CMC, but I could see an argument that he goes a little higher, a little bit lower than this. Now the next guy I want to talk about is Travis Etienne, and Travis Etienne looked phenomenal during a stretch last season. I mean, I mean, when he first took over the bell cow role in this offense, he looked to be a potential league winner. Did falter a little bit later on in the season, but ended up picking it up against the Houston Texans for 21 fantasy points in your championship week, which is exactly what you like to see. He's also in one of the easiest divisions in football. He's got that going for him. He's 24 years old. So I think Travis Etienne is all around a great fantasy cornerstone. I think Travis Etienne has the potential to go higher than this, especially considering he's attached to the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, who looked phenomenal this last season. And he's a great receiving down back, meaning he's going to be getting all the receiving work in this offense. And not only that, he's going to be getting the goal line work in this offense as well, which is what you want to see from a fantasy running back. And also, they don't bring in anyone really as a huge threat. They move on from Bijan Robinson. The depth chart right now is JaMychal Hasty and D'Ernest Johnson, so Travis Etienne is the RB1 in this offense. And to be honest with you, I don't really see him going down with the way he played this most recent season and the way he most likely will play next season. Next up, though, we got Josh Jacobs. And Josh Jacobs had a phenomenal season this past year, and finally we see the coaching staff really let Josh Jacobs go because, I mean, previously under Gruden, it really was not as great for Josh Jacobs. Despite drafting him in the first round, he was really never given the full opportunity to shine, with guys like Jalen Richard and Devontae Booker vulturing targets from Josh Jacobs for seemingly no reason, because Josh Jacobs, again, a much better running back. We finally see him have an insane season with over 1,600 rushing yards and another 400 receiving yards. That's 2,000 all-purpose yards, which is phenomenal from the running back position. Also, I mean, another 12 touchdowns to add alongside that. If you drafted him, you probably either won your league or came very close. A phenomenal running back in all regards. The reason why I do have him here is because it was only one phenomenal season, and I think he could absolutely go above this and be right next to Saquon Barkley, CMC, but he does absolutely deserve to be in this tier. Don't get me wrong here. But I would like to see another phenomenal season before I am able to move him up. He is only 25 years old, so age is not a concern just yet. You probably have another year or two with him before I would consider selling, but a phenomenal running back nonetheless. Now for the start of my list here, guys, I have Najee Harris, and again, I think Najee Harris is super, super duper underrated. 25 years old, actually the same age as Josh Jacobs, which is pretty interesting. Also, the Steelers love to run the ball. They run the ball all the time. That's why Najee Harris is consistently having over 300 plus attempts. This is somebody who's going to get the full workload in their offense and is a talented running back. I hate the narrative that Najee Harris is not a good running back. This is somebody who, despite running up against a terrible offensive line, has had almost 3,000 all-purpose yards in his first two seasons as a player. That is great. Also, the offense is only going up from here. We have the potential of Kenny Pickett to get better. We have Mike Tomlin bringing in a good offensive lineman. We have George Pickens potentially taking another step forward. We have Pat Freiermuth getting better. We have Deontay Johnson as a great wide receiver 2 option in the long term. I think the prospects for this team is very bright. Also, they have a great defense, meaning they probably are going to run the ball more than other teams because they want to set up their great defense. That's why I think Najee Harris is here. Let's move on, though, to Tony Pollard. And Pollard was a phenomenal running back last season, despite taking over the reins of the offense about halfway through the season. He still finished as, the running back 7? Did fact check that. Yes, he did finish at the running back 7, which is phenomenal. On Keep Trade Cuddy is a little bit higher, coming off at the running back 10. I have him at the running back 11 here, which I think is fine. I'm just worried about Tony Pollard's long-term job prospects. Well, I think he did play phenomenally well this season. I am a little bit worried that the Cowboys are going to bring in somebody like Bijan Robinson to take the main role. I'm not 100% sure. This is just speculation. But again, with Schottenheimer, I think they are going to be running the ball a lot. And I think this still will be a split backfield with whoever they bring in. I don't know who it's going to be. But also, I mean, the Cowboys were looking to get Zeke back after cutting him. Zeke's not interested. Can't necessarily say I blame him. They did just cut him. But they are going to go after another running back here. It was just a contract that really made Zeke unappealing to the Cowboys. So I do think they'll bring in another running back here. That's why I do have him a little bit lower. But if nobody else is brought in, Pollard shoots up this board. I could see him as high as 4, honestly. He's that good, and he's in that good of an offense. The next guy I have is Javonte Williams, and again, I'm a little bit worried with the torn ACL, but since I still do have Breece Hall ranked at 3, I think it does make a lot of sense to have Javonte still decently high up. I mean, he's still a very young running back. Only 22 years of age, will be 23 during the NFL season, though, so he is very young. He is 1 year older than Breece Hall, so nothing crazy. I mean, again, he will be 23 during this NFL season, so on a team that should be pretty interesting. I think Peyton coming in really does help out this offense because historically Sean Payton has been very successful at producing fantasy points for running backs. Willie hasn't run the ball all that much for running backs. He's ranked number 1 in total touchdowns for running backs 3 separate times, which is mind-blowing to me. Top 10 in 12 of his 18 seasons, which again is also great. That's why I do like Javonte here. I think he is at least worth a mention at the 12th spot, simply because he is a great running back and showed that his rookie year. Despite the fact that he probably will be in somewhat of a timeshare, I do see it more as a 60-40 leaning in Javonte's favor. But we'll see, especially because with ACLs, it is a little bit dicey. He did tear his ACL in week 3, I believe it was, in the NFL season, so it was fairly early on. He does have a little bit more time to rest. But anyways, guys, that wraps up my top 12 running backs. But before I go, I would like to know, do you guys enjoy videos like this? Because I do want to make more. If this video does do well, I will be making a top 24 Dynasty Cornerstone running backs, and I am putting out Dynasty Cornerstone wide receivers probably tomorrow or 2 days after this video comes out. So if you guys are interested in videos like this, please give this video a like. And I am answering every single comment, so any questions you guys have, and if you like the video, please let me know down below. If there's any rankings you disagree with, also please definitely let me know down below, because I know things like this, a list like this, can get a little crazy. Was I too high on Javonte? Was I too low on Pollard? Let me know down below, and subscribe to the channel. Turn the notification bell on so you don't miss another video. As always, guys, though, have a good day, a good night, and a good life.